Hello everybody, thank you for joining me for this next in the series on Jewish parenting. This time we're looking at what to do when things go wrong. Of course, like parents, children do not always behave as they ought. So how do we balance praise and rebuke in raising our children? We have a right hand and a left hand so that we can understand how God relates to us. Just as most people prefer to use the right hand, but occasionally need to use the left hand as well, so God prefers to be kind, and his right hand is a symbol of his kindness, but sometimes he has to temper his kindness with justice, symbolized by his left hand, and he has to give us limits so that we can become greater and stronger. We recall also that every day starts with us recognizing God's kindness, and if we read Kriyat Shema al-Hamita, the bedtime Shema, we will see that every day finishes with a mention of his protection. So whatever might happen to us in the day, each day is bookended by a consciousness of God's kindness and love and his belief in our greatness. Likewise, whatever we need to say and do to our children to rebuke them and instruct them, the default and defining mode for our interaction with our children should be around making them feel good about themselves, praising and rewarding them. We can thank or praise them for the smallest things, like putting something in the bin or getting their foot into a shoe when asked to do so. When we need to punish, it should be done so, as it were, with the left hand, meaning that it is done weakly and as a help to the work of the right hand, to our kindness and love. We do need to tell children off, but not in order to vent our own frustration and not in a way that makes them sin. When possible, we should ignore little things that might happen because a parent is allowed to forgive their child about this. These two ideas of praise and rebuke can actually be joined according to a verse in Proverbs chapter 3 verse 11. It says there in the words of King Solomon, Musar Hashem bani al tim'as, which is normally taken to mean the reproof of the Lord, rebuke of the Lord, my son, do not reject. However, the Slonimer Rebbe says that we can take this to mean that God rebukes us by saying, my son, you are my child, therefore do not be loathsome. It is unbefitting for you to behave in a bad way because you are naturally so great. And this is a mode that we can use when we speak to our children. If we need to rebuke them, we can remind them how great and lovely they are, how wonderful their soul is, how many fantastic things they have done, and point out to them that bad behavior is simply unbecoming, is not appropriate, is not fitting for a person as great as them. We find a similar thing in the prayer Elokeinu Shama, a beautiful prayer that precedes Shacharit, the morning service, where we give thanks for our pure soul and for God having made it the way it is. With all the difficulties we may have with ourselves, we remember in this prayer that we are all intrinsically spiritually beautiful and handmade by God. Here's what it says, my Lord, the soul you have put in me is pure. You created it from nothing. You formed it. You blew it into me. You protect it within me. Sin is not our nature, nor is it our destiny. On the contrary, God says that sin is beneath us and unworthy of who we really are as children of the Almighty. And we should give this perception to our children as well and remind them that they too are naturally great and naturally loved. And if we must tell them off, that is an aberration. It is something that is not part of the normal run of things. Miriam Adahan explains in her famous book on parenting that we can regard our children rather like banks. Every time we praise a child, it's like we put 20 pence in the bank. Every time we rebuke a child, it's like we take out £1. As long as our account with our children stays in credit, we're doing okay. For every time we rebuke them, we must have praised them 5 times first, and that way we stay, as it were, in credit. If, God forbid, we rebuke them more than we praise them, then we're going to be in trouble, because we will teach that child that they are bad. We will deny them the heritage of natural goodness that Judaism gives to everybody, and we will turn them into people who cannot fulfill their potential, God forbid. So we need to remind our children again and again that they are great, or that they can be great, that God has made them great, and that we ourselves are in awe of their gifts. What if we fail as parents? It does happen. If we say or do the wrong thing, or do something in the wrong way, we should say sorry. We should confess to our children that we've done wrong. Firstly, this is what a mensch does. Secondly, we will teach our children to say sorry by modelling that behaviour to them. We should also reflect in a quiet moment on what created that situation and how we reacted to it, and think about how we can either stop the situation recurring or how we could react to it differently next time. The Slonimer Rebbe says that every mistake holds the seeds of future success, since it can teach us how to do better next time. So if we do make a mistake, if things do go wrong, we put it right, we grow from that, we move on. Thanks for listening.